Commissioner Poole was caught up by weather someplace south of here and may join us later in the evening. And following the invocation, we will have pledge of allegiance.
We gather here today as members of the City Commission. We pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better city for everyone. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Officer, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Here,
Mr. Poole?
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Mr. Poole.
Second.
Been a motion second. Without objection, the motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, the motion is approved.
Mr. Brady?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Ms. Twining? Here. Ms. Lloyd? Here. Mr. Waddington?
Here.
Commissioners, you have before you the minutes of our meeting of December 12, 2016. What is your pleasure?
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Waddington.
I move that we accept the minutes of the December 12th meeting and dispense with the formal reading.
Second.
Been a motion second. Discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. And hearing no objection, the motion is approved. We turn to audience participation. Chief, are you ready? Oh, Chief, before we get to audience participation, the chief has something very special to tell us.
All right.
So we wanted to introduce our new canine to the commission and the community. This is Canine Honor. It's O-N-U-R, but it's pronounced Honor. He's a 3.5-year-old male. He comes from the country of Hungary. Officer Olemaker is his handler, and he's given him commands in Hungarian language, so he had to learn a foreign language rather quickly to do the training. He was just certified on last Tuesday, December 20th, so he's ready to go. He started working immediately with Officer Olemaker. He's doing phenomenal on all of his certification and is going to be a great asset to the police department and the community. So we wanted to bring him out just to show everybody him, and then he'll be around quite a bit at community events and that. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you being here. It was a very nice article in the paper, and good luck to you, Officer Honor. You spoke quite well for yourself and for your colleague there. I was afraid the chief was going to bring the cuff tonight and have Honor attack me again, as some of the prior dogs have. But thanks for being here, and thanks for what you do. Thanks, Chief.
Good looking dog.
I assume there are occasions when he shows his teeth.
As I say, he looks all business.
A minute ago.
He looks all business.
Before we get to audience participation, I do want to let folks know two things. Item one on the regular agenda is going to be pulled and sent back to the Planning Commission for some additional work. There's been some concerns among the commissioners as to whether or not we really need to take a more complete look at that. And so we're going to send that back for some more advice from them. And then with respect to the consent agenda, we're still working our way through what the best procedure is. And Mr. Waddington had an excellent suggestion, which we're going to implement somehow, starting with the next meeting. We haven't worked out all the bugs yet, but most likely we will have someone read the titles to the legislation while they can look at the legislation on the screen. That'll be something inserted before the beginning of the meeting, so that the folks at home who don't pull down the regular agenda items, or the entire agenda, in this case 220 some pages, can get a chance to see what those are and hear what those are. That'll be what's indicated at the beginning of the tape. So thank you, Mr. Waddington, for that idea. And with that, we'll turn to audience participation. Anyone wishing to address any of the regular agenda items, please step to the microphone, give us your name and address, and share with us your thoughts. Seeing no one move to the microphone, we will turn next to a presentation Susie Sarter, would you please come up here, along with any of the members of your Sandusky Sandusky Community Celebrations Council who are with you tonight. I want to present something. You folks have been a really important part of our community. You are in many ways thankless, and in many ways you are faceless. So I'm glad that the folks at home can see who you are. I know that all of your colleagues could not be here because of the holidays, and a lot of people are traveling, but while we're still in the middle of Christmas season, really at the beginning of it, right? Today's just the second or third day of Christmas. We wanted to present this to you. And so the key is for you, because you have been, as I understand it, and as I have observed myself, the ringleader here for a lot of years. Yep. But I have proclamations for all of the members. And let me just read what the plaque says. This key to the city of Sandusky is presented to Susie Sarter this 27th day of December 2016. In honor of her many years of tireless dedication and service to the city of Sandusky and the Sandusky Community Celebrations Council, and for the countless hours of time and talent given to the people of Sandusky. So I want to thank you and present this to you, Susie. And I would like to take a minute, because I have proclamations, or Ms. Kresser has proclamations for everyone, but I want to read what the proclamation says. Oops. Whereas the Sandusky Community Celebrations Council was formed for the purpose of providing wholesome family activities and events for persons of all ages in Sandusky and the greater Erie County area. And whereas the main focus of the council has been to organize the annual Stars and Stripes celebration, the gazebo concert series, and the Christmas lighting ceremony in Washington Parks in downtown Sandusky. And whereas members of the council are community-minded individuals who have volunteered countless hours of their time and talents for the benefit of others. And whereas members of the council have proven themselves selfless by spending time away from their family members while others simply want to enjoy their own families. And whereas the events organized by the Sandusky Community Celebrations Council are quintessentially American, each kindling patriotism, local pride, and neighborly love, and fostering a sense of community stretching back to earlier generations. And whereas the city of Sandusky is a better place because of the involvement, commitment, and dedication made by the members of the Sandusky Community Celebrations Council each year. Therefore, I do recognize and thank the members of the Sandusky Community Celebrations Council for playing such an important role in making Sandusky a better place to be, and call upon all citizens to recognize the contributions made by these people. Thank you all for being here.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
When the meeting started, I said to Commissioner Twine that giving away keys to the city of Sandusky is the favorite part of my job. It all goes downhill from there. Well, not quite. We have a presentation tonight by Marvin Reynoldsson about the changes coming to the Sandusky transit system. And Mr. Reynoldsson is not here at the moment.
So he said he'd be here in just a couple minutes. He was running late.
Here is into the room right now. Man, right on cue. Should have looked up to see if you were here yet. Good morning, Mr. Good evening.
Apologize for my delay.
Right on time.
Good evening.
Yes, catch your breath. So you've had a lot of hearings, a lot of meetings, while you catch your breath, and you're prepared, after all of that, to present tonight some decisions that have been made about the future of the transit system in order to be able to keep it solvent and keep it efficient. The most important aspect of transit is serving the people who need the service, but all governments need to do it in a responsible way, and you're reacting to budget cuts made by the federal government to our own budget, and we had to do something, and you found some pretty good solutions. So, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just exactly what you said. I don't think I need a presentation anymore after you said that. But
Doing all the work.
first of all, let's go over why we're here. As Mr. Murray said, over the last 3 months, we've been working to develop a plan to address the funding shortfall for next year, which is actually next week. And like we went through the stages. In September, we presented a summary to the City Commission. We had 2 public meetings in October, and I presented the proposed changes to 3 other public forums, including through the MPO. And basically, whoever would let me speak, I talked to them about this. This slide, I'd like to just always point out that the state of Ohio spent 63 cents per capita on transit. So we're behind West Virginia, Michigan, just about every other state, 46 out of 47 states that support transit. We're here because we've had our federal operating funding cut 18%, our vehicle maintenance support cut 35%, and this is resulting in almost $100,000 shortfall in revenue. And we anticipate our costs will increase around $75,000 next year versus 2016. So total budget gap of $175,000. Just to restate our goals. Our goals are for high quality service. We want to encourage ridership growth. We also want to make sure we have a sustainable funding source. We require operational flexibility. And we need a transit system that can survive the ups and the down times. Again, the options under consideration were a fare increase, reduction in service hours, and eliminations or changes to our routes that we do have. First of all, we're going to propose that we have a 50% fare increase for SPARC. We're replacing our fare zone system with a county-wide fare system for dollar-ride and a paratransit fare zone around Sandusky and also around Perkins Township. In addition, we're proposing a $1 increase in the dollar-ride rate for county service. Adult fare structure changes. One of the most uncomfortable things I found out about 4 months ago is that we actually did not have a fare structure that was in line with government regulations. So this is what we're going to resolve that for 17. So again, 50% increase for SPARC fares from $1 to $1.50. Paratransit fare, which is new for 17, will be $2. It can be up to twice the regular fixed route fare or SPARC fare. So we could charge $3 per trip for paratransit service, but we're only going to charge $2.17. But we are anticipating that to increase to $3.18. We have formalized all of our discount fare programs. So we don't really have a SPARC E&D fare right now. We will have one next year. Basically, elderly and disabled fare are fares mandated by the government that we provide for persons who are 65 and older or have a disability. The city of Vermillion, because they're the only municipality that supports transit outside of Sandusky, we gave them just a discount fare program. So we converted their $17,500, and we give their residents a discounted fare because of that support, which I hope we can replicate with other municipalities throughout the county. If you are with serving our seniors or you're eligible for paratransit service, that means you qualify for paratransit service, riding SPARC will be free. It will continue to be free. What we want to do is encourage people to use our fixed route service if they do have an opportunity to do so. Monthly transit passes will remain $50 per month, the same as they have been in 2016. I actually think that it was too high before, but now with our fare increase, it will be perfect for most riders, which gives the people who use the service a lot a way to use it at a discount. So for service changes, this is the most dramatic change for STS in its history. We are basically saying that we're going to be 50-50 demand response or dollar ride service, and 50% fixed route service, which makes sense because fixed route service is 73% of our ridership. And we, in the past, have invested 65% of our budget into a service that only provides 30% of our ridership. So for SPARC, I think to put this in perspective, that when SPARC started in 2009, it was only 15% of our total ridership. Today represents 73% of our ridership, and even higher for 16 once we get the numbers in for December. The reality here is that we have to invest money in what is driving our ridership and what provides the best and most efficient service for our residents and our riders. The problems with our existing SPARC network, the first problem is they built one route at a time. So instead of they built the first route to cover everyone. And they built another route to cover everyone plus a couple extra other communities. And then they had the third one to cover someone else. But no one ever thought about taking it and starting over again and rebuilding it from scratch. And that's what we're going to do in 2017. Number one, operational flexibility is key. With our existing system, we cannot tweak, I cannot cut. I can only do basically machete things. I can only cut an entire route out, but I can't adjust the speed of a route, reduce stops. Everything I do has to be big and very impactful. With our new routes, it allows all of the tools of transit to be used to optimize service and costs. And we will always be analyzing our routes to make sure that they are productive and they are delivering what we expected to deliver. So we're going to adjust the span, which is the hours of service. Connectivity means, does it connect with other routes? Is it connecting with, let's say, intercity bus through Greyhound? Is it connecting with any future services at Amtrak? Is it fast and convenient? Does it operate frequently? Can we adjust the frequency to match the demand from our customers? Is it accessible to most people in our area, the people that need it? And does it cover, where does it cover? Does it cover a lot of people? Does it cover our land, or does it cover a lot of businesses? Those are those things that, as a transit planner, we'd like to be able to change or adapt, depending on where our riders need to go. First of all, the proposed changes we have looks like we contract the actual network. The biggest change you'll see, if you see the green line from our current system, which is SPARC 3, which is our lowest ridership line. It embarrasses me to say that SPARC 3 only got less than 1,000 trips in November, the lowest total I've ever seen. In comparison, SPARC 3 costs just as much as SPARC 1 to operate, but it gets literally 20% of the ridership. So this is drawn by the fact that even though SPARC 3 covers a lot of land, it covers a lot of space, it doesn't go where people want to go. So the bus takes forever to get where it needs to go. It isn't convenient for riders, and it costs us a lot of money to run because those trips on Route 2 burn a lot of gas, and it's just generally not cost effective for us to continue to operate. So this is part of the long-term plan to reduce costs and gain more control of our system. The actual service changes, what we're going to look like on February 6th, we gave you a couple options at the beginning. First was just cut out, Saturday service, cut out Kalahari. But what we came to was a hybrid option, which was a tweaking of the routes to get to that number that we needed to get to. So as a result, we're going to reduce frequencies on routes 3 and 4 on weekends. So they'll run every 2 hours as opposed to every hour as it would run on weekdays. Hours of operation on routes 3 and 4, which are expected to be our lower ridership routes, will only run 15 hours a day, not 16 hours a day. That saves us 2 hours per day, which at $35, $45 an hour adds up over time. Weekend service to Kalahari and Ehovie, weekday service to Kalahari and Ehovie will be reduced from 16 trips a day to 10 trips a day. Providing service out to Kalahari, we have to have an extra bus. We have to add a second bus, and we simply can't afford to do that. Saturday service to Kalahari and Ehovie will be eliminated. We can't afford to provide that service. And Saturday service pauses during the 10 a.m. and the 5 p.m. hour. This saves us money, it saves us 8 hours per Saturday, which adds up over time. So we kind of trimmed away, as opposed to making a big, huge cut. We kind of trimmed away at the service to provide that service that people need, but also not to cut it so drastically that it hurts someone. Dial-a-ride, or demand response. We're going from a zone system, a system with 3 different fare zones, to one with 1 fare zone and a paratransit overlay, or a paratransit zone. The paratransit zone is established by being 3/4 of a mile from a fixed route. It's 3/4 of a mile from a fixed route because it's designed to be complementary to that fixed route for those persons that cannot reach a bus stop. As a result, if you're traveling within that area, that paratransit area, and you are able-bodied, you will have to use the bus stop. You no longer can call Dial-a-Ride to have them pick you up at your house and take you where you wanted to go. This will save us a lot of money and actually pays for all the improvements to SPARC. For demand response, it's a hybrid option. We have to cut demand response hours by 29%. Most of these cuts are going to go support the expansion of SPARC service. The result of these changes will be 8,000 fewer demand response trips. And at a cost of $23 per trip, it could save us up to $230,000. And those savings will be used to help meet our budget deficit and also help pay for those new routes that we just established. Paratransit is highly regulated by the Federal Transit Administration. There are 3 eligibility categories. Like I said, it basically means if you can get to a bus stop and ride a bus, you should be on the fixed route system, which is far more cost effective to provide that service. But if you cannot, we will provide paratransit service for you if you're traveling within that paratransit area. So timeline, going forward, we expect by Monday, January 9th, pending approval from ODOT and the commission, we'll start mailing out paratransit application to riders that we believe will qualify for them. The paratransit application is 14 pages long. It is designed to help us determine if this person will qualify for that service or not. By Monday, February 6th, pending ODOT approval, new routes will begin and the fare changes will go into effect. And by Friday, March 3rd, paratransit eligibility will be fully enforced. We're going to provide a month. The month of February will be like a trial period for people to make sure they're used to using that new system, and gives us that opportunity not to cut someone off from the system, but I'll give them the chance to make sure they're qualified for the service that they need. This last slide I just want to put in here. I've been taking this to my other presentations with MPO. It's this article is from Hilton Head Island, North Carolina. They're having issues with transit, but they do seem to realize that transit is critical to their tourist economy. For us, 35% of our transportation, our trips on SPARC are directly related to tourism. 60% of our SPARC ridership is service industry related. I just want to make sure everyone in this room realizes the consequences of what we do and how it affects everyone else, even if they don't use our system. Any questions?
Hey, Mr. Brannelson, commissioners, questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brady.
Mr. Reynolds, I applaud you for being aggressive in restructuring your routes. I think that is key to it. But as at the end of every presentation that I sit through on transit, I come back to the one theme that continues to haunt me, and that is that this has to be the year that we reach out to our to fellow partners in the community, meaning the county, meaning townships, and meaning businesses that this transit system has a positive impact on. So unless and until we do that, you are going to constantly have to come back to this podium, that microphone, and whittle down services. It's like any business, you either increase your income or you reduce your expenses. So this had better be the year that we find a way to reach out, go with our hat in our hand to other communities and find out who is willing to support this program and who really wants to see public transit in Erie County. And I mean Erie County, not just Sandusky.
Ms. Lloyd?
Thank you, Marvin. I couldn't agree more with Commissioner Brady. I feel like you were dealt a pretty difficult hand trying to make up $175,000, and you've done a great job going from a loop system to a straight line system. We went through it in detail this afternoon, and really making sure that the people that need transit is still available to them. But it's one of those things where we have to challenge the municipalities and the county to really jump in, because it's not just our residents that are using it, it's our county that's using it. So hopefully your message is loud and clear.
Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Lloyd and Commissioner Brady. You know, it's critical for our paratransit individuals there. It's critical for people that are going back and forth to work. But it's also a great idea for the other cities that we pass through to work with us on this, because it only enhances the services for not only Sandusky city residents, but other cities as well. So this is definitely something I'd like to see work on further.
All right, Mr. Reynolds, thank you very much for the presentation, for all the good work, and making sure that we are able to serve the people who need the service. So, thank you.
Mr. President.
Commissioners, we have several communications in our packet. I wonder if someone would care to make a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Second.
Then a motion, discussion. Without objection, the motion be approved. And hearing no objection, the motion is approved. I will say when we get to the consent agenda, which we're doing right now, we are pulling off of the consent agenda and putting on the regular agenda item. Let me just find it here for a second. Item I, with the wellness program. The work in progress, and one of the commissioners suggested that maybe, given the amount of money that we were proposing to spend, that that's an item that should be on the regular agenda. I agree with that, but as all of you commissioners know, and the folks at home have heard this before, any one commissioner has the unqualified right to pull an item from the agenda and make sure it gets a more complete discussion. So, with the exception of item I wonder if someone might care to make a motion to, with respect to the consent agenda items.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I make the motion to accept the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, H, J. Is there a G on here? Is G still on here?
So I is out, but otherwise, all of the
So-
items.
All ordinances and resolutions except for item I, as drafted and presented to the City Commission under the consent agenda, shall take effect in accordance with this section reflected in the ordinances and/or resolutions, whether it be in accordance with Section 13 or 14 of the City Charter.
Got a motion and second. Discussion? Ms. Doster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion first, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinances and resolutions, please.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine? Yes. Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Those ordinances and resolutions are adopted. Mr. Harris, I don't remember offhand if we pull an item from the consent agenda. I think we take that one up first, do we not?
You have the discretion to place it wherever. Since we removed item number 1, I would recommend we just go right into it.
Right into I, then?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Doster, would you present item number I, please?
Yes. I'm assuming we call that item number 1.
I guess we'll call that item number 1.
Is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Firelands Regional Medical Centers Center for Coordinated Care of Sandusky, Ohio, for professional services for the Employee Wellness Program, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Chairman,
Ms. Klein.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lockhart.
I just might if I ask, what is the proposed savings if we go this route? And just give me just a little bit of background on what we're doing. Just,
Sure, Mr.
Through you,
Hayberger.
Chair President Trevor
Yeah,
Hayberger.
You were the author of the communication and did all this work, and we had a little email exchange yesterday so that I could better understand it, and your explanation was very helpful to me. If you would answer Mr. Lockhart's question, please, and then give us a broader understanding or of what the legislation is designed to accomplish.
Sure, thank you, Mr. President, and through you to Commissioner Commissioner Lockhart. The wellness program was something that's been thought about for several years now. We put it together starting early this year. Myself, Connie Nicholson, of course, did a great job. Deb was involved, Deb Leslie, and we worked closely with Ashley Group, our consultants, for our healthcare pool. If you're familiar with our healthcare, in 16 is the first year we were on our own, correct, Hank? So in 15, we went from Borma to on our own. So that means all the expenses of everything is coming directly out of our pocket, which actually has been a great decision. I've talked to some folks from Borma. Their healthcare costs have gone up from 6% to 11%, whereas I believe we've only going to go up about 3%. So that was a good decision. Another component of this is between 14 and 16, I would say roughly we spent as a city between $3.5 and $4 million on healthcare costs. This proposal is $125,000 max. That's assuming every employee is involved and every employee does every test. So there should be some savings there off of the 125 off of that, just in general. But in addition to that, the biggest cost is that initial early detection of a healthcare issue. We all know that early detection is critical not only for a person's health, but also for the health savings. And in talking with our consultant, one of the examples he raised was type 2 diabetes. He stated that initially if you find someone that has, I don't know, I guess it's just me that has to have the weight problem. I guess I bring that excuse up. But let's just say it's a weight issue and maybe they're on the verge of being a type 2 diabetic. If you can get them early enough, you can get them on a diet plan, for lack of a better term, diet plan, which is $200 a year. Whereas if they went on the medication for type 2 diabetes, the cost of that to our plan, not to our employee maybe, but to our plan is $2,000 a month. So what cost do we, I can't give you an exact number of what the savings are going to be. It all comes down to that early detection and resolving those issues early. The other component is, excuse me, the fact that we're self-insured now, we need our employees to be better consumers of their health care. So one of the components of this is when I go in and I sit down for that follow-up care, the lady from Center of Coordinated Care is going to go through your medications. And let's say you're on X medication that may be a name brand. They will suggest, well, why don't you switch to Y, and it can save the plan hundreds of dollars a month. You'd be surprised. Let's see, what else? I guess it's more that engagement. And then again, $100,000 a year for an expense of maybe $4 million of overall cost. What we plan to do with this is through time change it and modify it. This is a pilot program for both us and Firelands. Firelands has their own wellness program for their own employees. They haven't ventured out and done it for anybody else. So this would be the first time they've had to work with other folks, and we've been having emails back and forth and phone conversations because it is a little complicated. But I think it's going to be a great thing. I envision maybe the first year, I don't think you're going to get a savings per se. But I think as time goes on, 1 or 2 or 3 even, you get an early detection of cancer, that's going to pay for itself right there for that year. I guess if there's any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Haber. Commissioners, questions or comments about this proposed legislation?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Twine?
I think this is a great idea. We've been doing this at the state level for a few years. You probably won't see a cost benefit the first few years, but in the long run, I think it's well worth it. It gets people on the pathway to checking themselves and getting the help they need, so they're not on long-term type medication and issues that would be more costly. So I think this is a great idea.
And just so I can add, some of the tests that are given in this are things that people can go to their doctor and do now anyways through our program. The goal of this was to, okay, we know that our employees can individually go do this, but now what we're doing is bundling them in, bundling the test, bundling the employees, and using the Walmart theory to get a lower price. So that actually the tests themselves, the very tests that they could be doing now, are actually going to be reduced.
Thank you. Further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Brady, again, sorry.
That
Beat you.
this concept really began with I think it began with our finance department, didn't it, Hank? Coming out of Borma and realizing that we would have a savings going on our own, and this is really a benefit of a decision made by both Mr. Soloway in conjunction with our finance department. So kudos to you and to our volunteers on our finance department, because this really leads the way. Number one, and number two, we could not have picked a better partner than to partner with the city's largest employer in Firelands Hospital. Firelands Hospital has figured out that this is not only good for their employees, but it is good for Firelands Hospital in that healthy employees mean you run more efficiently. You have less missed days at work. You don't have to retrain people. So this bodes very well for our city, and it's going to make all of our employees their own advocates, and they are in essence going to save themselves money as well as save the city money in their efficiency also. So I'm really appreciative of the fact that the finance department led the way in this.
Ms. Lloyd?
This is working out great. I don't have to say as much if he goes first all the time. So thank you, Commissioner Brady. I couldn't agree more. I think this is a fantastic plan for our staff, and it's going to save a lot of money in the long run. And just one of the small examples that you gave, giving medication consulting, if it's not only saving us money, but it could be saving the specific staff member money. If they're buying a brand name medication and they can be paying the generic copay instead, we're not only saving money as a city, but we're saving money for everyone else too. So great work, you guys.
Thank you, Ms. Lockhart. Unless there are further questions or comments, Ms. Doster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And on the ordinance?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady? Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. And Commissioners, I want to thank you. The suggestion to take that off of the consent agenda was a good one. That deserved a more complete discussion and a chance to highlight Mr. Haberger's work and work of so many others. I just want to say that all of you end up being important eyes and ears, obviously for the city, but for me personally, in this seat, and I appreciate all of your suggestions and comments and contributions over the course of the 2 weeks in between our meetings. So thank you for all that all of you do. Officer, would you present item number 2, please?
Item number 2 is an ordinance adopting amendment number 1 to ordinance number 16-046, passed by the City Commission on March 28, 2016, making general appropriations for the fiscal year 2016, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules and in full accordance with Chapter 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Been a motion and second. Discussion. Mr. Soloway, maybe you could walk us through what it is that we're about to undertake here, please.
I'll talk a little bit about both item 2 and 3 at the same time, because they both kind of correlate. So this year has been a very good year. 2016, we're very thankful, very blessed for the kind of year we've had financially. And so really, item number 2 is more of it's a budgetary compliance. It's to get us cleaned up and get everything sort of in order here to get us through the end of the year. And since we've had such a good year, part of agenda item number 2 and obviously agenda item number 3 with the payroll stabilization fund transfer, we're able to substantially fund that for this year, going into next year. And in addition, we're looking to make a sizable investment in our neighborhood initiative for the upcoming years. And I think Commissioner Waddington wanted to talk about that at this time.
If I could make a motion, or unless you wanted to vote on that first. I'd like to make a motion that the commission designate $900,000 into the capital account, specifically for Sandusky neighborhood initiatives. And I talked with, I think, most of you today, and I've talked with Derek in the last week about this. This investment's made possible by, we've had a financially strong 2016 as well as received. We're going to be getting some insurance money finally from the 06 that I've lived with for the last 10 years. And that's been a burr in my saddle. And I wrote some notes down. These proceeds will help offset expense incurred by the city to remedy the challenges from the CHIP program. That was my first year on commission in 04, and that ran through 06. We had a mess. We couldn't do repairs, and I couldn't go 2 or 3 weeks back then. I brought it up several times. You were on the commission at the time, I believe, Mr. Murray. Probably once a month. What are we going to do? Is this ever going to be resolved? So I had to come, in my mind, the fitting close to this chapter of the city's history, reinvest these funds that we've got, and we might be anticipating more money besides $900,000. I think we're going to do $300,000 from the Dorn, and then the $600 from Lloyd's of London, correct? Right in that area. And then we have Travelers possibly down the road, insurance coming. That put this back in the neighborhoods. I can't go back and fix the last 10 years. And I worry about how many houses have got raised in the last 5, 6, 7 years that if I would have had this money then. But for me to go forward, that's why we had the conversation, Mr. Murray. And for me to go forward and get peace in my mind and maybe out in the community, use this money, we got an opportunity now to put it back in, and let's just go forward, from here. And I got to just bury it.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
There's a second.
Mr. Harris, I think, is this something we should rightly consider as an amendment to the legislation that's before us? Okay. So there's a motion to amend. Mr. Waddington will treat it that way. We'll treat the second as a motion to amend. Discussion on the amendment. Wait. So this is this is Mr. Waddington's motion to amend item number 2 to direct these funds to the housing program. We've had a great year. We've had a recovery from Lloyd's of London in connection with the old CHIP scandal.
Right.
And so the motion on the table is to amend the legislation to redirect the funds that way.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Mr. Chairman, just one quick thing. I am absolutely in agreement with Mr. Waddington. Spending more money in our neighborhoods is certainly needed, welcomed for everything that we're doing, and it's just going to add on top of the forward momentum that we've already done in some of the most blighted areas and some of the areas where we need the most. This is really going to put a good punch into 2017, and I think it's going to be an even better year coming up. So, yes, I'm on board 100%.
Further questions or comments on the motion to amend? Mr. Waddington, I just want to thank you for this idea. It was the neighborhoods that got ripped off all those years back, and it's the neighborhoods that deserve this money when we've got a great year and a recovery like we're in the midst of right now. And not only that, but we have a really good plan that we're developing, and we'll see how that unfolds, I guess, over the course of the next month or so. But it's a great time to be able to use the money as well, because we've got a specific plan for how to use it and to help them out.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Waddington.
If I may, I walked through some of these homes. Sue Daughtry contacted me years ago, and I went through 2 of them. I couldn't go anymore. I couldn't do it. I went in, and the shoddy workmanship, like I said, I can't fix it now, but that's always haunted me, I guess. So I'm just thrilled. We got to go forward, keep driving forward. I can't fix this. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations. I'm not an attorney. But spoke at length today with Mr. Brady, and I was hoping that he might chime in on this. He was on with me in 2011. I don't want to put him on the spot, but he recalls some of the,
Now you have to. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brady.
You're not putting me on the spot, Commissioner Waddington. I can tell you that Commissioner Waddington has unnecessarily carried this burden way too long. And I could not support this concept any more than I do. Our residents were ripped off in this program. And I think in addition to pushing this money in the neighborhood, this commission is prepared to say, we're never going to let that happen again. On anyone's watch, we must not let that happen again. Dollars are too precious. Our neighborhoods are too precious. We make an issue and we lament the fact that neighborhoods are the lifeblood of this community. This gives us an opportunity to show that. Pushing this money into the neighborhoods in any type of form that enhances our neighborhoods or fixes problems in our neighborhoods is money that will return to us tenfold. And I thank Mr. Waddington for coming up with this idea. And all I can tell you is let it go.
yep. I'm going to try. It might be a few beers, but I'm going to, I'll work.
That'll do it.
Further questions or comments on the motion to amend? Ms. Oster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That motion, that amendment is adopted and made part of the legislation. And now, comments or questions on item number 2 as was presented by Solway in terms of the amendments to our 2016 budget. And then there's,
Did you
Ms.
say
Harris.
item number 3? I'm sorry, Commissioner President.
Item 2, they're on there.
We're still on item 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So if there are no further comments or questions on item 2, Ms. Doster, please poll the commissioners on the motion, please.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. Item number 3, please.
Item number 3 is a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds from the general fund to the payroll stabilization fund and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Twine?
I move for the adoption of this resolution under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Discussion? I don't think Mr. Soloway mentioned the specific amount, but this will add another $300,000 to our payroll stabilization fund, which is a good bit of insurance to have. As regular watchers of these commission meetings will know, we put the money in the payroll stabilization fund because our employees retire from time to time, and they have a right under their contract or under our ordinances, depending upon whether they're union or non-union employees, to take with them any unused, or certain percentages, I should say, of unused sick time and vacation time. So these payouts come as a surprise, generally speaking, or often speaking, and they're big hits on the departmental budgets. And so years ago, I think, Mr. Waddington, that was at your insistence, when I was on the commission with you the first time around, we created a payroll stabilization fund to be able to absorb these larger payouts without having to interrupt the police department budget or the fire department budget or everybody else. So, good initiative. Questions or comments regarding that piece of legislation? If not, then Ms. Doster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the resolution?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Item number 4, please.
Item number 4 is a resolution amending section 1 of resolution number 014-13R passed on April 8th, 2013, authorizing limited seasonal dockage at the Paper District Marina and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this resolution under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lockhart.
I'm not so sure that I can agree that we can increase the seasonal dockage. I think the intent here is to bring in more transient dockage, and for the city not to be in competition with other marinas in the city. So I'm not so sure that I'm for increasing the seasonal dockage, because as we go down the road, we can't kind of go backwards. We can't reduce the number. So that, I'm not so sure about doing that.
Additional questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brady.
I wonder if Mr. Wilkshire would give us just a brief explanation. I believe that I understand that this number that we're at in legislation tonight is somewhat of a compromise from what our partner there asked for, and I'd like to hear your explanation on that, Mr. Wilkshire. And
Certainly, through the commission president to Commission Vice President Brady, initially Lake Erie Towing, which is in a successful partnership after 1 year to manage the marina, recommended that we go from the current 22 seasonal dockage slips to, I believe, 31, which was put forward to the commission at a previous meeting, and then we took that portion of that off the legislation to enter into a longer-term agreement with Lake Erie Towing. The reason they put that forward was because of those 9 slips that they recommended. They all sat vacant for all but 2 days in the 2016 season, and so their thought was that they could provide a better service and obviously, enhance the revenue to the marina by filling those 9 slips with seasonal dockage, in which and it got increasingly as the year went on last year, as people saw that the service had improved, a waiting list of people looking for seasonal slips. Ultimately, we took that to the commission. We heard the feedback that this is meant to be a transient marina, and that was where the compromise position, and a few commissioners had mentioned maybe compromising somewhere in the middle. That's where the 27 came forward. Obviously, Lake Erie Towing would like to see that. But that is where the recommendation came from, is that these slips would most likely be vacant. There may be 1 or 2 days, likely the 4th of July or Bike Week on the Saturdays of those events, where the spaces would be filled. But the goal would be to bring in the revenue to provide a better experience and to put the marina more into the black. But we're certainly open to the commission's will on this, and certainly see it long-term as a transient marina. As transient demand goes up, we will, from year to year, have an ability to ramp those down. And as long as it's a lucrative partnership with Lake Erie Towing, I can't see why they wouldn't. I don't think they would get out of this business over us taking that from 27 to 25 to 22, or even lower if demand necessitates over time.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brady.
I support this increase, and the reason for that is because I remember the days when this transient marina cost us a lot of money. Those days are not too far gone past us. I'm thrilled that they can now make money for us, and I am not going to put any type of roadblock in their way to continue to be profitable. I will draw the line on going overboard with docks, and by that I mean I don't think that I will ever support more than 50% of those docks going the other direction. But I'm certainly going to support this. I want to do everything I can to make them profitable. They're our partner. When they're profitable, we're going to be profitable.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Waddington.
Not only is Lake Erie Towing, I thought they did a fabulous job last year, but this will be a short-term transient hub for somebody who wants to come in, and I thought that was intent to get a few more people to go downtown to restaurants, maybe stop at a bar, get a drink. And the other thing that we all forgot, we no longer have a security issue. They always have somebody down there pretty much the whole season. There's somebody in a boat, there's somebody around, they have workers down there. That takes it off us too. That's an incurred cost that I think a lot of people, so I'm definitely supporting this.
Further questions or comments? I will be abstaining from voting on this legislation because of my partial ownership of a marina down the shoreline a little bit. If there are no questions or comments, Ms. Doster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
No.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Abstain.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the resolution?
Mr. Lockhart?
No.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Abstain.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. Item number 5, please.
Commissioner President,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to advise the commission that this will be brought back on a second reading because there was only 4 votes, not enough votes to pass under section 14, so we'll come back up under second reading.
There were 5.
4.
No.
Oh, you're counting better today than I am.
If last one here, we did 5, but it's,
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Waddington.
if Mr. Poole arrives, could we do the vote again tonight, or?
Mr. Harris is saying, is shaking his head no, and I think it's.
I didn't know if we could.
It's a notice issue.
Okay, since you already, okay.
Okay. Item number 5, please.
Item number 5 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to accept grant funds in the amount of $1 million from the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for costs associated with the Healthy Lake Erie Initiative Sustainable Sediment Management Pilot Project Expansion, authorizing the city manager to execute any grant agreements and to expend funds consistent with the grant agreement, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Twine.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and second. Discussion? Mr. Klein, you are always in the position of gimme, spending wads of money on lots of great things like roads and sewer plants and water treatment plants, but this is an occasion in which you can bring a lot of money into the city. So
5
if you
minutes.
address that, Mr. Poole has entered the chamber.
Timing is impeccable.
Not quite.
You just missed an important vote.
You have to button your top button. Apologize for my look. It's a long drive from Atlanta.
Hopefully you weren't on your motorcycle then.
Glad you're here safely.
Mr. Klein.
Yes, sir. So a little bit of history on this one. This is the one that people have already read about in the Sandusky Register, and it was mentioned in the manager's report at the last commission meeting. But typically when we get a grant, we have to send in a lengthy application and go through a process and apply for the money and say what we want to use it for. This one was a little bit different. When City Manager Whoopser approaches me and says that he was approached by ODNR in the fall and they want to give us $1 million, is there a way that we can make sure that we can use that money? Of course, we're going to say yes. So what ODNR and the state of Ohio are looking at doing here is doing some habitat restoration and beneficial reuse of dredge material along the coast. They originally have about 10 projects in Sandusky Bay that they'd like to do, what they're calling the Sandusky Bay Initiative. The focus so far has been almost entirely on Lake Erie, and they're trying to reestablish and put some focus in Sandusky Bay as well for the water quality and the habitat restoration. So by giving this $1 million to the city of Sandusky, it ensured that those first projects that could be used would be along the Sandusky coast, and that's where the focus is going to be. So what this money is intended to pay for is 4 projects for design, but not necessarily construction. It'll create 4 shovel-ready projects. That's the intent right now, is to create 4 shovel-ready projects along Sandusky coast. And I know there's a lot of conversation that's been out there as well about the Living Shoreline project in Shoreline Park. It's something similar to that, but even creating larger wetlands throughout the coast that'll help clean up the water. So I'm very excited about this project. I'm very excited that we can be a leader in the region and the leader in Sandusky Bay to make sure that it gets cleaned up for environmental and economic development purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Commissioners, questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I saw somewhere there in the material that it would create dunes. Are those actual like sand dunes or?
Well,
because I saw there's like 4 locations for it.
through Mr. President.
One of them, excuse me.
This, that's going to be one of the options that we look at. There's wetlands creation, it may be dunes. Everything's going to be on the table. We're going to hire either 1, 2, 3, 4 consultants, whatever we need to make sure that the projects get designed in a timely manner. And the goal is to have a collaborative effort around the entire Sandusky Bay with the understanding that that all the final decisions and how the projects get designed are the city of Sandusky's decisions with ODNR, but that we want to make sure that these are things that can translate around to other locations as well. So if dunes make a lot of sense here, if just coastal wetlands, living shorelines, different habitat things, whatever it is, if that makes sense in this location, will it make sense somewhere else? So we're going to look at every option and every alternative and share those for the entire bay.
Further questions or comments, Commissioners? Mr. Klein, this is really a very, very big deal that we obtained this money. And it's really very exciting. I mean, it is so critical for us because our local economy is very much dependent on the entertainment, amusement, travel industry. And we are in turn very much dependent upon the health of Lake Erie. And for the state to come along and partner with us to get these projects so that they're ready is a great testament to the vibrancy of that partnership. And it is also, I think, a good sign of things to come when we turn to funding some of these, because these are projects that have benefits, direct benefits for Sandusky and its economy and our residents and our visitors, but it also has a huge benefit for the rest of the larger community, for Ohio and for the region. So I'm confident the state will be there as a partner to fund these projects once we have them, as you indicated, shovel ready. So very exciting. Are there further questions or comments? Doster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. Item number 6, please.
Item number 6 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a contract with Manikin Smith Group Incorporated of Beechwood, Ohio for professional environmental services in conjunction with the U.S. EPA Brownsfields grant received from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules and in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
It's been a motion and second. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brady?
I got a great explanation from Mr. Klein earlier today on this agreement, and I would ask that you share that for both our audience here and our audience watching on it's $400,000 is an important chunk of money.
Sure. Through you, Mr. President. As Commissioner Brady mentioned, the city received $400,000 from US EPA to do environmental site assessments, phase 1 and phase 2, remedial action plans, quality plans, things like that, for sites that the city determines where we want to spend the money. Under this contract, we would be hiring Manikin Smith Group to perform those assessments. The contract for them is only $195,500, meaning that we would possibly be looking to bring in another consultant at a later date, possibly upping their contract, but determining how they do to see if it's a good fit. We've worked with them on other projects, Sandusky Cabinets, they're pulling the tanks over at Sunoco, G&C Foundry, so we know that they do quality work. But the good thing about this money is, I know we hear at these meetings frequently that we need to do phase 1 environmental site assessments to determine if we need to demolish a building or acquire a piece of property, or what are we going to do with this one? Well, the city's required to do its due diligence and do that environmental assessment to get those baseline parameters. That's paid for out of a separate fund typically. Well, now we have a resource that we can use to do those assessments. We no longer have to spend those city dollars, whether they're capital or some other fund, to do those phase 1 and phase 2. So we can do that now through this grant, and that frees up that other $400,000 for other avenues. And the grant is good for 3 years, so their contract will be as well.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Further questions or comments? I think this is all really important to potential developers coming into the community because, yeah, we have a legacy community like ours where you've had manufacturing or gas stations or whatever it is. The potential buyer isn't going to be comfortable closing until they know the property is clean. A lot of times they can't get financing for it as well, so they can't typically anymore. You can't get financing for commercial property unless you have phase 1, no matter what the property's been used for in the past. So I think this is a very important economic development tool, so glad that we have it. Is there further questions or comments? Ms. Doster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. Item number 7, please.
Item number 7 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to approve the first and final change order for work performed by Robert Construction Incorporated of Willard, Ohio for the Caldwell Street Reconstruction Project Phase 2 and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules and in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brady?
I'd ask Mr. Klein to just give us a brief overview of this, of what we're doing here. It's wonderful to get money back and on a project like this, and I'll let you share how that happens, Mr. Klein.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. It's always good to see cost savings on projects, but it's also even better to see those cost savings if you didn't compromise the quality. So I want to assure everybody that we did exactly what we were set out to do, which we improved the base. We made sure that this was a street that was going to last a long time. But the cost savings came mostly under a contingency item that was something that we learned on the first phase of the projects. There were underground electric and gas lines that were in the way on the first phase, so we put about $20,000 in contingency on this one to make sure that we could relocate those if we needed to, and that was not something that we needed to do. So this is final quantities. Some are increased, some are decreased significantly, but the majority of the cost savings came through those contingency items that we could not have to incorporate.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Questions or comments, commissioners? Ms. Doster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
The ordinance?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
That ordinance is adopted. Item number 8A, please.
Item number 8A is an ordinance authorizing and approving a grant in the amount of $45,313.25 to Imagine Baking Incorporated in relation to the property located at 1034 Hancock Street, declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Twine?
I move for the adoption of Ordinance A under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and second. Discussion? I see Ms. Muratori, our development specialist for the city of Sandusky, is here. You indicated earlier today that you had a presentation you wanted to make in connection with these. Really, there are 3 pieces of legislation, 8A, 8B, and 8C. And why don't you go ahead and take whatever time you need to explain all of those from your perspective as part of your presentation, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the commission. Yes, there are several elements to this. I'd like to touch on all of them here in just a very brief presentation. The Economic Development Review Committee met on December 13th, 2016, and approved the grant portion of what I'll be discussing here in the next few minutes. So Imagine Baking is located at 1034 Hancock Street. It has 49 full-time employees and sales of over $3 million. There are several separate projects that together hit on multiple elements of our strategic plan, including job creation, beautification of an industrial building that also happens to be in a targeted residential area. This also includes elements of public art and public recreation. So one of the first elements is just painting the exterior of the building. Here I have some pictures of the building, of the exterior building. Pretty much the entire exterior of the building will be painted, which I think will be an enhancement to the property and again to the surrounding areas. Also, once the building is painted, they will install a mural, which again, something that we've discussed is public art. So these are just purely conceptual pictures. The owners do know an artist who has done murals all over the world, and their idea is to do a whimsical representation of what goes on inside the plant there on Hancock Street. So again, this is just conceptual, but thinking about some sort of art there on Scott Street and then also on Hancock Street that you could view as you're driving south. The owners are interested in working with the community and our planning staff as well to figure out what's best for the area. So the painting plus the mural combined is approximately $70,000. Our facade grant typically can cover up to 60% of that, which would be $41,925. The next element is adding some signage to the exterior of the building. I have a picture of the current, the way it looks at the intersection of Hancock and Scott. There's some small signage that directs where trucks should deliver some incoming deliveries, but other than that, there's no real signage. So proposed is some additional signage on Hancock Street and Scott Street, and then also some signage in their visitor parking lot. Signage is approximately $5,600. Again, we can do 60% of that per our programs, and the recommendation is to pay for 60% of that, which is $3,388.25. And then other elements associated with this particular project is through our small business assistance program. They are going to do some roof repairs. The roof repairs are almost $26,000. Because our small business assistance portion of the program is really for brand new businesses or businesses that are looking to expand or grow in some capacity, we did tie this element to job creation requirements. Those requirements are 5 jobs per year for each of the next 3 years. So that portion of our grant is capped at $15,000, so a little less than 60%. And also separately, not to get too confused here, but on December 12th, 2016, the Revolving Loan Fund Committee met and approved a separate form of assistance to Imagine Baking, and that is tied to a dividing wall that will be constructed inside the facility. This will allow Imagine Baking to simultaneously produce both gluten and gluten-free products without the risk of cross-contamination. This is important because they're a big player in this space, in gluten-free and organic. So now I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit to, I think, the next agenda item, but again, I want to talk about everything as a package. So the Revolving Loan Fund Committee approved a $16,886.25 forgivable loan to help construct that wall. That will increase capacity. And so now I'm going back to the roof. Due to that increase in capacity, they're going to need increase in shipping and receiving capacity as well. And fixing that roof is really going to help with that. It's going to open up some loading docks that currently are not being used because of roof issues over those docks. And lastly, as part of the economic development grants, the owners have agreed to good faith negotiations regarding easements across two of their parcels for our multimodal trail. So I tried to show it here in this picture. I've highlighted two parcels that Imagine Baking, the owners of Imagine Baking own, that could potentially be part of our multimodal trail. And they are, again, as part of the grant agreement, will negotiate the possibility of easements across those properties. So that's where the public recreation comes into play.
Thank you, Ms. Muratori. Is that, are you completed?
Yes, I just actually want to make one more thing clear. So the roof portion, or I apologize, the wall portion that is the revolving loan fund, that is a forgivable loan, that is tied to the same job creation elements as the roof. So 5 jobs per year for 3 years, so a total of 15 jobs across both of those.
No, you have no reason to apologize. It's a complicated presentation and package, and you explained it very well. Commissioners, questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Lloyd, if you want.
Thanks. I just want to tell the Development Department how fantastic of a job you guys just did. This is a very, very complicated package, but the creativity that was displayed in making sure that we're doing what we can for existing businesses in the city is phenomenal. I'm excited for the O'Donnells. I had the pleasure of talking to Adrian about a month ago, and it was fantastic to know that Sandusky is a fantastic place to have your business. It's affordable, and just one of the items that was on in your presentation, that was it over 60% of manufacturing is between, or something between Toledo and Cleveland, and over, I don't know. The stat was fantastic, but they don't live in the city of Sandusky, but they spend a lot of time here. And to listen to her talk about the city of Sandusky, her passion for the area is overwhelming. And I know she's very excited to own a business here and to employ some of our residents. And I believe the wall has a contract waiting on it. So once that wall is built, they have a contract waiting. So the jobs are already there. They're ready to hire, I think. So thank you so much for all the hard work.
Mr. Chairman,
Cool.
I think Ms. Lloyd has hit on something. It's important. There's a lot of things that go into this, into putting a package like this together, and sometimes the public doesn't know what's going on. Would you take a couple minutes and tell us what went through to make this happen? All the parts and pieces and people are involved? Just so it gives the folks an idea. Sometimes it takes a long time for us to pull this together.
Sure. Through the commission president to Mr. Poole, to Commissioner Poole, I would say one of the things, initially Commissioner Lockhart, approached us and said that there was some potential investment at Imagine Baking, and he facilitated this process and helped us, put us in contact with John and Adrian O'Donnell, and got us a completed application. We had to work with the applicants to get a little bit more information. So we've had a lot of dialogue with the with the applicants about their business, historically, prospectively, their intentions for investing, their intentions for job creation, and, you know, exactly what their needs are, what their project is, and how to move forward. So we've had a lot of those conversations. And then from there, we had to bring both applications to separate committees. We had to go to the Revolving Loan Fund Committee on December 12th, and then the Economic Development Review Committee on the 13th, and get approvals from both of those committees. But all the while, ongoing dialogue with the applicants. And then ultimately, it culminated in bringing it to the commission.
How long did it take you to do this, roughly? What do you
I
think?
believe we received their application at the beginning of December, like the first business day in December, I think. But I think conversations and discussions were in the works prior to that.
Very good. Just wanted the public to recognize that there's a lot involved in the things, these individual projects we put together, and you folks did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Further
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yeah, I guess they mentioned my name, so I should explain a little bit of what happened. When I first got elected, I thought that, like Commissioner Lloyd says, that business is important here, especially small business. We don't have major retailers in our area, and so it was important to me that we kind of get back to getting jobs and helping businesses in our area. And so I reached out to the O'Donnells to see if there was anything we could do, and brought them back with the staff. And the staff was excellent here. Angie Byington's area with Matt and Maria Mortori, very good people here, and they really put this deal together for the O'Donnells, and I'm super happy about the job creation that we're going to get out of this. You know, the fact that they can produce gluten-free in our community, and that's probably, we're probably one of the few communities that have gluten-free production, and I'm super excited and very proud of the staff, how they did this. So going forward, I hope we can do more like this.
Further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brady?
once again, I have to abstain from voting on this issue as potentially a customer of the company that I own.
Further questions or comments? Mr. Oster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please? 8A.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Abstain.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Abstain.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. Would you present item 8B, please?
Item 8B is an ordinance authorizing and approving a grant in the amount of $15,000 to Imagine Baking Incorporated in relation to the property located at 1034 Hancock Street, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Poole.
move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Discussion? Mr. Oster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. And Mr. Oster, would you then present item number 9, which is the third of these three related pieces of legislation dealing with Imagine Baking?
Item number 9 is an ordinance authorizing and approving an economic development loan in the amount of $16,886.25 to Imagine Baking Incorporating, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Chairman,
Ms. Twine.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Discussion? Would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. Item number 10, please.
Item number 10 is a resolution approving a compromise settlement for revolving loan funds made to the Basket Occasion LLC and Admiral's Daughter LLC, and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I move for the adoption of this resolution under the suspension of the rules and in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Waddington?
I'm going to support this. Basket Occasion, I had to go back, that was my first term, so that's going back to 2004. That was September 13th, and Admiral's Daughter came later, and we passed that in October of 2006. And I, at the time, I keep notes, and that is sure everybody sits by and see that. At the time, they took a chance and tried and failed. And I feel like 2006, 7, 8, they tried to make good in this loan. Their house is attached to it. I'm ready to, I hope everybody supports this 10%. Let these folks, they tried, and we were in an economic pothole at the time, okay, in the late 2000s. And as I told Mr. Murray earlier today, why is gratitude life's hardest lesson to learn, I guess. Sometimes you just have to appreciate they tried. It didn't work out. We're not going to hit home runs every time. And I think I want to see this settled and done with. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Waddington. Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I think it's important to know that this went through the revolving loan fund committee and was approved also, just for the folks at home.
Good point. Further questions or comments? I think when first looked at this, Mr. Solway or Mr. Wiltshire, I forgot, we've been looking at some of these outstanding balances in the revolving loan fund for a while, and some of them have been outstanding for quite some time, and obviously the folks who are behind don't have the ability, otherwise they would have, or we would have taken collection action. But it's important that we just get these off the books and deal with these forthrightly, and if this is what the committee concludes is a reasonable amount to collect on this loan, I fully support that. And whenever we can do that with the other loans that we're not going to recover, we should just write them off and move on.
Right.
Ms. Wobser?
Through the commission president to the commission, I just want to say that the development department, the law department, finance worked really hard to analyze all those loans, and there was a lot to look back at, and statutes of limitations, and I think they did a really impressive job of untangling everything to the extent possible and separating them into categories to determine how we should proceed with each of them. And I think just as, or more importantly, as we look forward, we're trying to do a better job of assessing risk on loans and grants that we make in real time. And ultimately, just as we talked with Imagine Baking tonight, that loan was made as a plan to be forgivable loan. We want the commission and the public and the committees that Commissioner Poole mentioned earlier tonight, like the Economic Development Committee and the Revolving Loan Fund Committee, to know going in whether we intend for something to be a grant, a forgivable loan, or repayable loan, and then we'll therefore track and proceed on those accordingly. So we're trying to both clean up the past, but also to have more clear intentions as to what we expect the level of risk to support going forward.
Yeah, and I should thank Law and Mr. Lasko. I know there are a lot of people been working for quite a while to clean all this up and have a better direction for us going forward. Further questions or comments? Doster, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the resolution?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. And that concludes our regular items of business, and we turn the meeting over now to Mr. Wobser for his city manager's report.
Thank you, commissioners. Happy holidays and happy new year to everyone. I'll start with the donations. First, a $100 donation was received from the Milan Township Fire Department Association for use of our safety house during the Fire Prevention Month. I'd ask for a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
Second.
Then a motion and second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. And hearing no objection, the motion is approved with our thanks.
Thank you. A $50 donation to the Park and Recreation Fund to support youth recreational activities was received from the Soloway family. I'd ask for a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
Second.
On a motion, second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. And hearing no objection, the motion is approved with our thanks to Hank and his family.
Thank you. And then the next three I'll do all at once are all for the K-9 Fund. A $10 donation to the K-9 Fund was received from an anonymous donor. A $50 donation to the K-9 Fund was received from Melissa Hebert. And a $25 donation to the K-9 Fund was received from Linda Scher in memory of Henry Scher. I'd ask for a motion to accept those three donations.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion, second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, the motion is approved with our thanks to all three of those donors.
Thank you. Moving on to the police department. We had a chance to meet K-9 Honor. The dog and Officer Ed Olemacher were certified in special purpose and patrol-related activities on December 20th. We are excited to have Honor joining the SPD family. Honor is a 3.5-year-old male German Shepherd. Also, the police department has attended many community events, assisted with delivering gifts to those in need, distributed Jacob's Ladder toys to Venice Heights first grade class, passed out stuffed animals at Santa's house during the reindeer event, passed out plush toy canines as a gift from K-9 Gunner and K-9 Honor and adopted families in need. I will say, as the father of two boys who received the plush canines, they were very, very excited, and that's a great gift. So we thank the police department for all those acts. Also, the speed sign was on 5th Street. If you remember, Mr. Stuckey came in a few weeks ago and talked about the resurfacing of that street, and that potentially could lead to speeding. On the 1100 block, the following data was collected. From the 2nd to the 8th of this month, there were 5,400 cars. Of those cars, roughly 25% were above the 25 mile per hour range, but only 286 or 5% were above the 35 mile per hour over range. The police department will continue to monitor 5th Street as they do for all roads with violations. Also, we've had questions about Cedar Point Patrol. We thought it might be good for Chief Orzek to give just a general update on the patrol. And one of the things that we just remind is that a significant portion of our revenue is derived from Cedar Point. And so we do some modest patrolling out there as just part of our regular police services. But I think there may be some confusion as to the distinction between any regular police service we provide from the general fund, as well as some hired service that we provide for Cedar Point, just as we would for many other private concerns in the city. With that, I can turn over to Chief Orzek.
Mr. President, I believe Mr. Brady and Ms. Twine were at a coffee with the commissioners, and there was a question about the Cedar Point, and I think there's a misconception out there that we're providing services to their private property. The Cedar Point Police Department provides all of their services to the park, to their hotels, to their dormitories, any property that they have, they handle almost entirely. We have had over the last 2 seasons, last year there was a certain amount of hours that Cedar Point employed a officer from the department to be over there on special off-duty assignment, just like the schools do, the library does, the construction companies, and all that. So any officer that's over at Cedar Point on their property is hired as an off-duty officer to provide safety service functions. And this year, 2016, it was from every hour of operation. So if they opened at 10 and closed at 8, we were there, and Cedar Point paid for that officer just like every other business or organization does. So if they see an officer over there during the season, it's generally they're being paid by that company. The police department handles so much over there that we should feel blessed that we have them as a partner, because there'd be a lot more calls for service than would be normal if we were going over there and responding to, argument in a hotel lobby, or, argument between two roommates inside the dorms at Cedar Point. So they do a vast amount of work that frees us up that we don't have to do. So just in a nutshell, they pay for the service if our officers are over there on a property, and any other patrols we do on are just normal officers handling calls in their zone.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. I'm very grateful for that. I mean, I realize that there is no other city in the community, or no other business in the community that provides some police service. And if any other owner of a hotel or a private business had a problem and had need to call for assistance, they actually have the opposite right. So that is a big benefit to our budget. So. Thanks for pointing that out, Mr. Brady.
One additional clarification, Chief Orzak, is I wonder if you would just speak very briefly to the qualifications of the Cedar Point Police. They are not what oftentimes people represent in a derogatory fashion as rental cops. They are, go ahead, I'll let you explain.
So they have a full-time staff over there all year long that are bonded officers. They have the same requirements as any of our police officers do through the state of Ohio.
Yes.
And during this season, the city manager gets real busy for a day or two swearing in their officers, because they'll go from 8 or 10 or 12 that they have to an additional 24 or 30 officers. They're all bonded officers, they're called, and they're capable of making arrests, carrying firearms, and acting as a peace officer. Then there's another contingent that are non-bonded officers that don't have those arrest powers, but they're providing security for the park. So they have a fluctuation of staff that perform different functions, but most of the officers over there have arrest powers and can perform the same functions that any peace officer can.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep. Moving on to finance, and thank you, Chief Orzak, for that description. Both the Administrative Review Benefit Committee and the Finance Committee have recommended 2% cost of living adjustments for non-bargaining employees effective for the first pay period of 2017. The next step is to have the City Commission approve this recommendation. I'd ask for a motion of the City Commission to approve a 2% cost of living adjustment for non-bargaining employees.
So moved.
Yeah, go ahead. That's all.
Second.
It's been a motion and second. Discussion? Let me add that this is a regular item that comes in front of the commission. That we do have an ordinance on our books that calls for the meeting of an Administrative Benefit Review Committee. And I am part of that as the president of the commission, as is Mr. Soloway, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Whoopser. And I think those are the only 4 members of that. And what we did this year and what we've done in prior years is compare the increases that the union employees received. This is for the non-union employees, and took a look at what other area governments have done. And it seems right to me, and I think the other members of the committee, that we would recommend to the full commission a 2% increase for our non-bargaining employees. So there is a motion and second. Further discussion? Would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Weddington?
Yes.
That motion is adopted.
Thank you, Commissioners. Moving on to the Public Works Department, the city plans to nominate 3 projects that are currently scheduled in the CSO General Plan to the Ohio EPA for funding under their new Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, WPCLF grant. If selected, the city would receive interest rate discount. Okay. Also, an update on the Justice Center. On January 20th, the Public Works Department will be accepting proposals through a formal RFP process for properties that meet the eligibility criteria. On the attached document, the RFP will be posted on the city website and advertised in the Register. Staff will forward all of the eligible properties to the Site Selection Committee, which includes Chief Orzak, Judge O'Brien, and Commissioner Twine. The top selected sites will be analyzed in detail with fit plans, optional layouts, and parking information. A recommendation will then be presented to the City Commission after the committee's completed its work. Moving on to community development, Economic Development Specialist Maria Muratori wanted me to pass on. She's headed down to Columbus, but It was actually, to Commissioner Poole's earlier question, the beginning of November when they received that application. So we didn't want anybody to think that we could necessarily turn all of that around in 25 days. It was about a 55-day process, just so everyone knows, which is still pretty aggressive considering all the committees, et cetera, that had to meet on that. Also, we're excited to announce, which has already been announced, that Vintage Development received a state historic tax credit for the redevelopment of vacant structures on Columbus Avenue. As the commission knows well, this location has been selected for city administrative offices, and staff looks forward to bringing a lease for the consideration of the commission early in next year of 2017. Also, the second round of the neighborhood initiative meetings have concluded. The CUDC will be working through all the public comments and working on a final draft of the neighborhood plans for a public presentation near the end of January. Also, an update on Sunoco. The 2 originally identified underground storage tanks have been removed, and analytics are currently being run to ensure all the contaminated soil around those 2 tanks has been removed. However, during excavation, an undetected and undocumented 3rd tank was discovered. The city is currently working with our consultants, Manikin Smith, and the Ohio Development Services Agency to apply for and secure additional funding in early 2017 to remove this 3rd tank. And we've heard that there is still funding available in that fund for the abandoned gas stations. So we feel good that with a competitive application that will be successful. Also, on December 5th, crews completed the repair of the sinking floor at the Amtrak depot. The repair paves the way for a $100,000 renovation of the facility next year to improve accessibility and security. Also, the Planning Commission is scheduled to meet January 25th at 4:30 in the first floor conference room, and the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for January 19th at 4:30 p.m. in the first floor conference room. Also, public service, wanted to let the commission know that both of our new salt trucks are in and operational. I've seen them. They have the light blue new seal on the side of them, which is the first vehicle that I've seen with that seal. By the way, your lapel pins are on their way, Commissioner Poole. We've ordered those. And the trucks look beautiful, and more importantly, they're already operational and serving the city, so as storms go on. So, Eddie, you want to talk a little bit about
Instead of going to the right on the plows, when I stopped up.
They're multi-directional, yeah, so we can plow either to the left or the right side.
That's a time saver.
That reminds me of the movie with the race car driver where he could only turn left instead of right. So it's like we have what movie was that? Does anybody remember? We're fully operational. Additional information, Justin Harris, the law director, is being appointed to the Erie Metropolitan Housing Authority as the city's representative. And also I wanted to check in, if you remember at our previous meeting, I mentioned that the only 2 positions we would consider that are new positions to look at for filling before the passage of the budget earlier next year is the GIS analyst position as well as the recreation program supervisor position. Commissioner Poole asked that we prepare job descriptions and reasons for those positions, which were included in your commission packet. I'd like to ask for a motion, if the commission so approves, that we can post and fill those positions so that we can hit the ground running and fill them early next year.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Cool.
I've been through with the department head of the GIS analyst position. I don't have any questions about that. It's recreation program supervisor. It appears they're gonna supervise 1 to 50 seasonal employees. Is this a seasonal job?
It's a full-time job, but the supervision of those employees obviously would happen on a seasonal basis. Although the gearing up for and the hiring process extends well beyond the season, as well as kind of closing up shop at those places. But a significant portion of the duties of that position are not necessarily related to that day-to-day management, but include the actual creation of year-round programming and events in the city.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I can support this. I will vote yes for this. Conditionally, I'm just not in favor of hiring employees. Additionally, if I'm not sure that I can see what they're actually going to do. And based on the growth of the programs that they're supposed to be creating and attendance and participation growth in the program, so it shows some value. Next year, I'm going to ask that we take a good look at that to be sure this is a value. It does sound like it's a good idea,
Thank you, Commissioner.
just hard to work for.
I understand.
Further questions or comments on the motion that the city manager requested? If not, then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
That concludes my remarks for this evening.
Richard, any questions or comments for the city manager? Any items of old business?
Mr. Chairman.
Waddington.
When I met with Mr. Link last week, we discussed what's going to happen as far as parks going into 2017. Foxborough, I guess it's 30, right in that area, about 30,000, and we're going to add an ADA sidewalk so you can get to the park. I guess that's not currently there. And then also a bigger playground for Lions Park, and that'll be about 50,000. So I think we're doing well. We're, as far as the parks. And I just hope this continues. Support for it.
Any other items of new business?
Did you say new business?
Old business. Old and new business.
Old, new old.
No monkey business.
I got new business.
New business, please.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that this is the end of the first year that I was elected in the city commission, along with, so good, so, with Commissioner Lloyd. And somehow they reelected the gentleman to my right, the shortest commissioner. And I'd like to say it was an amazing year, getting to know the staff from all the departments. They did a really good job this year, learning what they do and getting along with my fellow commissioners here. It's been a great experience. We had a really good year. And from what I can see and what everybody can see, we're going to have an amazing 2017. And everybody's got, it's always interesting that we debate about things that we care about, and everybody cares about something different. When I said to Dick before that we need Dick, we need Dennis, we need Naomi and Dave and Nikki. I'm not sure about Wes, but I'm sure that he's got a purpose. But everybody represents somebody in this community, and it's an awesome commission that we have together this year. And so I'm super excited about it in 2017. So,
Here, thank you. Further items of old business or new business?
I have new business.
Ms. Twine.
On January 11th at 6 p.m., Commissioner Murray and I will be hosting commission hours here in the chambers. That is a Wednesday, again, January 11th at 6 p.m.
Are we doing, let me just clarify, are we doing it in the chambers or the clerk's office?
That we were doing it in here.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
Okay, that's fine, we'll do it here. We just don't want to make the Brady mistake. Other items of new or old business?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brady.
I'm not sure what this fit under, maybe just a public announcement, and that is that Commissioner Waddington and I both received a very nice thank you card this last week from the director of Karen Shear. That was the result of our serving down there a couple Saturdays ago and encouraging people to make cash donations and food donations and clothing donations. And in that 2-hour period of time, Karen Shear shared with us that they raised a little over $2,000 in cash and about $3,000 in goods and services. And one of the very first elderly gentlemen that showed up to donate, we figured out was a Navy veteran. His first comment when Commissioner Waddington and I showed up at his door, car door to unload, was that he was glad to see that there was finally a use found for a commissioner to unload cars. And I certainly agree with him. If we can raise a couple $1,000s in 2 hours, we should do that more often than once a year.
Thank you for doing that. Other items of new or old business? I have one small item. I had, when Ms. Kurt became a direct report to Mr. Whoopser, I failed to also tag along the responsibilities, the liaison responsibilities for Parks and Rec, which Mr. Waddington has always carried out anyway. So formally, tonight, I'm appointing Mr. Waddington as the liaison to Parks and Rec, although he's been doing that job tirelessly in the intervening months anyway. So thank you, Mr. Waddington, for doing that. Other items of old or new business? Then we will turn to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the commission about any city business, please step to the microphone, give us your name and address, and share your thoughts with us, please.
Good evening. My name is Monica Hall. I live at 813 Perry Street, and I am actually here to address the concerns that I have with the residential streets during inclement weather. Over the past week or 2 weeks ago, with the ice situation, I understand that ice. There's a concern with ice and how it melts and the salt and all that. But I left Sunday, I didn't go anywhere. I never seen anything come down my street. Not one truck, nothing came down my street at all. Monday morning, I got up and I went to work. The streets in Sandusky, the neighborhood streets were awful. The main streets, which were Hayes, Columbus, Warren, those kind of streets, they were clear, but the rest hadn't even been touched. I got across Perkins Ave into Perkins Township, and the streets were dry and clear. I work at Whirlpool in Clyde, so I actually go through the back streets because there was a train. All the streets were dry and clear, and I wanted to know, I came here for this reason, I wanted to know that what are they doing on the rural areas that we're not doing in the city? Because we shouldn't have to drive on unsafe conditions as such. Sunday night, I went to my parents' house. Coming back, I slid all the way into the intersection because the roads were complete ice. And what I want to know is what is being done about our safety. If we pay taxes, and we should have safety on our streets. And the fact that last winter, it was such a mild winter, there should be a surplus. So that shouldn't be a concern as well. So I'm asking to the commissioners and to whoever else that it might be, why are we dealing with these situations? It's not the first year. It's gradually been getting worse in the last couple of years that our neighborhood streets are bad. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And I come representing myself, but I also come representing others. So I just want to know, and I just want to make it a public address to you guys.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. I know, good to see you again. I know there have been a lot of comments about the ability to get, or the inability to get to some of this ice following the ice storm that we had. And I'm going to ask Mr. Link or Mr. Wobser to comment, or Mr. Brady, as they see fit. Some of the things that I've been told are with some of our smaller streets, it does get difficult to get a salt truck back there. We are looking at potentially acquiring a smaller vehicle so that we've got cars on both sides. We can get a vehicle down there. I think part of the answer has been that to some extent we might need to come up with a different system so we have snow emergencies on some of the smaller streets so that we can get a vehicle in there. I also think that some of the difference that I've been told is that in the rural areas, you don't generally have as much trees that are providing shade, and for the salt to be effective, it needs to get the sun when we do get the sun. And when we don't get the sun, that salt's just going to sit there on top of the ice. And as long as it's not above, 19 degrees, it's not going to do anything if it doesn't have any sun to help it. But perhaps one of you gentlemen could provide some further comment.
That's exactly right. So two things, the sun and then the amount of traffic. So the more traffic you have and the more sunlight you have, the more heat you're going to generate, which is going to remove the ice from the intersections. I believe you said you lived on Perry Street, so that is a street that we can get a truck down. I can't tell you exactly why they weren't there
I didn't see one at all.
I understand that. So what we have to do is learn from this process. Unfortunately, in this instance, once the ice is there and we don't get the warming temperatures, we're fighting a losing battle. We can put more salt down, but all that's going to do is put the salt into our sewer system, which then is going to increase the load at the sewer plant. They have to use more chemicals, things like that. So like Commissioner Murray said, we're going to put together an idea to try to get smaller trucks down these streets. The other issue was that we were in the middle of leaf season, and then we got hit with the ice storm, so we had a lot of trucks that were set up with leaf boxes and not salt boxes. So we were limited on that, on the amount of trucks that we had available to put the salt down before the ice set in as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Twine?
Mr. Link, is there a way to treat the streets prior to, because I think there were weather reports that it was going to be bad.
That is correct. So we do have streets that we put brine down on, which is when you see the little white lines on the street. And mostly though, we put those on our main drags for police and fire. So they'll be on Washington Street and Monroe, Columbus Ave, Hayes Avenue, places like that. You mentioned Warren Street, so that our emergency vehicles can get places faster. We don't have the capacity to do all of our streets. Even if we had 24 hours in advance, we wouldn't be able to get to all the side streets, unfortunately.
Mr. Chairman,
Poole.
just would ask that we look at increasing as much as possible the brine in the streets that we do it on. I recognize we have some limitations, but the idea is, what does it take to increase the capacity if necessary, and what can we do to get as much as we can every time?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Hall, there's no good answer. There's no good reason why we're not in the neighborhoods. You're hear a lot of different excuses and a lot of different reasons, and we're not here to give you excuses, but what I will tell you is we will be, and Mr. Link and I have talked about this in years past, we will be more preemptive on this than we've been in the past. We will look judiciously preemptive, and by that I mean we're not going to get ourselves in a position where we're dumping salt needlessly, but we will be more preemptive when we see weather coming. I don't think we've done that. I don't think we've been true to doing that in the past, and I think that's a big part of the issue. We have spent $500,000, I think, now on 2 new trucks. That has got to help us also, and we will try not to let you down again. But
My issue was the ice on a couple of weeks ago was just the icing on the cake. This has been going on for several years now that I see the difference. Well, I've been at Whirlpool for 20 years, so I know the difference in the streets in town and out of town. And I just wanted to know why are streets such a mess when I can go on country roads and have clear streets? And these are neighborhood country roads. These aren't like 269 or 412 or 101. This is like in the neighborhoods, and their roads are clear. And in town, we have snow still in the roads and stuff. My street is not narrow. I have a normal sized street, so the whole truck can't get down the street. It wouldn't apply for my street.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Poole.
May I suggest that, first of all, obviously, we're responsible to take care of our streets, so there's really no excuse for it. But I do want to suggest, and correct me if I'm not wrong, first of all, I think the township might have fewer streets than we do to begin with. Is that correct? And then as you drive through the township is actually covered by the county, the state, and the township. Those roads are not just city roads. How much of this, in fact, Cleveland Road, do you not do Cleveland Road from city limits all the way to Huron?
Barnes Nursery, yeah.
Barnes, all the way to Barnes Nursery? And that's the imbalance. We are a city that does our own streets, that has a lot more streets that are narrow and with parking on every side. It takes longer to do it, and we have a finite number of people. When you drive in different roads on the township, you have to check and see whether or not it was done by the county, whether it's done by the state, or it's just a neighborhood done by the township. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you asked the question of what might be possibly why their streets always look so good. And the traffic on 250, as he said, you get a lot more traffic. But there's no excuse. We're still responsible to do what you do. But that gives you an idea of why it looks so good out there. They've got a lot of resources between 3 different sources to do those streets, to assign to get that done.
So no excuses.
No excuses.
But I think you heard somewhat tonight some of our own frustration with the situation and staffs and the resolve to do better. I think all of us got an earful.
Yeah, I just wanted to address it, because if you don't address something and it just keeps going on the same way, so, I was always taught, either stand for something or fall for anything, so I'm standing. All right?
Thank you for standing here.
All right.
Anyone else wishing to address the commission on any items of city business? Not, then, does someone care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Stand adjourned.
They corrected me.